Hello everyone, good afternoon. Well, as I've been introduced, I'm Freddie Rayner, and my business partner, and the reason I'm here today is the Property Millionaire Academy. And the Property Millionaire Academy is the brainchild, if you like, of both Peter and myself, me from my experience in franchising, and Peter from his experience of property and business in general. Together, we've got 80 years collectively of business experience, me mostly in franchising and Peter in business and in property. And I'll talk about franchising if I may, just to begin with. Does anyone know the first franchise ever started? Anyone? KFC. Sorry? KFC. No, it was a modern one. The first one was a guy called Isaac Singer, and from Singer Sewing Machines. And that was in the 1880s. That was before even I was born. And he made this amazing sewing machine. Sewing machines were about at the time, but he made one that was extra specially fast. And because most people that were in the sewing industry, clothing, they worked from home, and the quicker they could make things, knock them up, obviously the more money they would make. And the franchising part didn't come from the actual making of the machines, because he just made the machines and sold them. But how he sold them was via a franchising network of people that taught people how to use the machines. So they taught them how to use them, and they also introduced installments. They were quite expensive for the time, and in today's money, if they was maybe £2,000 to buy, then they made them at £50 a month or whatever to make it acceptable. And that was in 1880, and they're still going strong today, but not as a franchise. They sort of amalgamated, sold on, amalgamated, and now they're the company they are. They just knock out sewing machines, and you can buy them via Argos or wherever. And the next one, similar to yours, that we know of and was the first into the country, was McDonald's in the 60s. Now McDonald's have hundreds of thousands of franchised outlets all across the world, and I ate one on the way here for breakfast. And the guys that the two founders were brothers called, strangely enough, McDonald. And they worked a system out that makes burgers the same wherever they were. They had 3 stores, and they just knocked them out, and they had queues. And a guy called Ray Kroc, he was a salesman selling ice cream vending machines, which were new in the 60s. And he worked all across the country as a salesman, and he heard about this particular venue that sold so many burgers. He thought he'd sell them some ice cream machines. And when he got there, they ordered 8, which was incredible. No one had ever ordered that sort of amount before. So he really took a long, hard look at what they were doing. And he joined them eventually as a business partner to sell franchises. A few years of that went on, and in the late 60s, he bought the McDonald's out for around $100 million. He paid $100 million for the franchise of McDonald's, and then went on within 10 years to become a billionaire. And there's a film out about him now, Ray Kroc, and the film's called The Founder. And I'd have a look at that film if I were you. If you have any inkling as to being a franchisee, owning a franchise, or just understanding the world of how on earth McDonald's got so big so fast, and how one man become a billionaire. You know, that's a lot of money. Excuse me while I go and change. I haven't got an auto. Franchising, as far as we're concerned, and the BFA are concerned, the British Franchise Association, people want to franchise because it's a safer option usually. It's a safer option usually because as a franchisor myself, 95% of our franchisees are successful. And that's a big number, 95%. There's a small number that isn't successful, and that's another story really. You can have a thirsty horse and take it to drink, but you can't make it drink. And that represents the 5% of my franchise that for various reasons aren't successful. And 2 of them died, so that wasn't my fault. So that didn't leave very many. I have 200 franchisees across the country, and they're successful. Peter wanted to bring the property experience and form a franchise. So the Property Millionaire Academy does 1-day courses, 3-day courses, mentoring, and a franchise package. Excuse me again. I started as a cleaner, as a door-to-door cleaner. I started when I was 35, which was 35 years ago. And I went door to door. I live in Northampton, and I chose to work Northampton, Bedford, Milton Keynes, and surrounding areas. And all I'd done was knock on doors. Hello, missus, today is your lucky day. It's half-price cleaning. What do you want cleaned? I'd clean ovens, I'll clean your whole house, clean your mattress, I'll clean your roof, I'll clean your windows, I'll clean your driveway, I'll clean your carpets, I could clean your upholstery. And that's what I'd done. In all that time that I did that, I never ever had a day that I didn't clean anything. So I just had to learn to knock on doors. That was the hardest bit. I had some people tell me to F off. So I guess that they weren't interested. Because, you know, you can't win them all. And on other occasions, I'd have a person asking me to quote for 3-piece suite, and I'd work there for 3 or 4 hours, and then I'd continue, and then the next house, or maybe a few houses along, would be a whole house of carpet cleaning. So, you know, it was quite interesting times. And I enjoyed that. And it was in 1997 that I was going out to go knocking on doors in and around Towcester, which is just outside of Milton Keynes. And my wife told me that she was going to the doctors I didn't ask, I thought it was something to do with women's plumbing or something. And I'd rather not know. And I just went out, and it was pouring down the rain, and I was just going to knock on doors. When I come back that day, it was about 5 or 6 o'clock, I can't quite remember, and there was no Ruth, that's my wife's name. And I thought, where's me tea? And an hour later, still no Ruth. So I thought, she went to the doctors, I think I'll phone the out of hours. So I phoned the out of hours, and it was on an answer phone thing, and it said that it's at the answer phone service for loads of doctors' surgeries, and if I had an issue, to phone the hospital. So I phoned the hospital, and they said, yes, Ruth Rayner. She's in intensive care. Oh, who's she visiting? I said, no, you don't understand. She is in intensive care. Oh, and could I come along? So I whizzed along a bit sharpish, only to discover that my wife had had a massive cardiac arrest that day and died in the doctor's surgery in front of the doctor, who was a woman. And she thought Ruth had fainted on the floor, and when she checked her pulse, nothing. She bashed her back to life, and my wife recovered and then went again. They then called the paramedics with the paddles, you've seen casualty, and buzzed her back to life, and off she went to the hospital again. And because she went again, my wife's very determined, and they flew her to Oxford by helicopter. not by EasyJet. And so I went to Northampton, then got to Northampton to hear all this, and then I had to go to Oxford to find her. When I got there, the doctor came up to me with the nurse beside him and said, Mr. Rayner, I'm afraid your wife's had a very bad cardiac arrest, and we don't think she's going to make it through the night. Prepare yourself. I went in, and there was, you see someone prostrate on the bed, all pipes and tubes and beeps, and it's all dark with all the blue lights on. It's very scary. And I don't know if anyone's ever experienced this, but I had an out-of-body experience, and I sort of floated up to the corner, and I was watching me talk to the doctor, and I thought I was in casualty. It's weird. I've never had it since, never had it before. But that's what happened to me, and my wife did recover. But because there was a lot of oxygen supplied to the brain cut off, she couldn't remember things, and she was, well, nuts is the right word, but it wasn't the medical term they used. And eventually she come home, and because they couldn't figure out why her heart just stopped, it wasn't a heart issue, it was a brain issue. So we had to go to Oxford every other day. And my wife was a PA to the financial controller of Travis Perkins in Northampton. And she couldn't go to work, clearly, and they let her go. That meant no money. I wasn't knocking on doors, that meant no money. I was self-employed. It didn't occur to me to sign on, just didn't occur. And I was just running out of money. We went to the hospital. Sometimes we were there for just an hour. Other times it was 6, 7, or even 8 hours. And I was doing nothing and earning no money. It was very frustrating. So on some of the occasions, after it got to critical, like I had no money at all, I was borrowing money from, well, she was giving it to me actually, and food parcels, my mother-in-law. I was 50 at the time, which was a bit embarrassing. And when my wife went in for the long sessions, I'd go off to Oxford, and I was just outside Oxford. I went to the council and asked if they had any work. And they said, yeah, we have lots of work for cleaners, but you have to prove you're self-employed, which I could, as I did. And they gave me the sort of work that most people here would be sick if they were given this kind of work. You've seen the programmes Life of Grime, that was me. I do all sorts of work in the horriblest of vile conditions where people had left houses in terrible conditions because they did, and the council wouldn't put in the council workers in case the council workers sued them. I was self-employed, so I couldn't sue them. I had to sign a waiver. If I died, caught malaria, anything, it's my fault. So I thought, okay, I'll get on with it, and I got on with this absolutely stinking mess of a house, and I immediately contributed to it by being sick. So I took off most of my clothes in the summer, and just in my underpants I had to walk around because I was frightened of snagging anything. It was so filthy dirty that they put a skip outside, and all the carpet, what used to be carpet, was cut up, put in the skip. And on my van, it said, the cleanest clean ever seen, or it's free. And I thought, I'm not working for nothing, so I made sure it was clean. And I worked there 7 days. At the end of the 7 days, a young lady turned up. She was about 25, very smartly dressed, with a folder and white gloves. I thought, funny. And she went like that to me as she walked in the door. The door was wide open, the windows were wide open because the place smelt so badly. It didn't after I'd finished. When she went like that, went to shake her hand, and she ignored me totally, put her hand up to touch the rail on top of the door with her white glove, and went like that. And it was white. Then she went behind the radiator, still white. Then she went into the oven, not quite so white, but you get my drift. It wasn't filthy. I'd cleaned that. I'd beat her. And because she'd done that, she offended me. And I'd really tried hard and beat her. And I would have been happy to have charged 500 quid, because 500 pounds for a week's work was pretty good, even if it was revolting. Because she annoyed me, I decided to up the ante. And she said, how much is all this going to cost? And I said, 2,590 quid. And then she suddenly looked like she'd sucked a lemon. And she said, that's a lot of money. I said, yes, and that was a lot of the cleaning. And to her credit, She signed it off, and I got paid the next day, which is weird for council. They normally don't do that. I then got another one, and another one. I had 5 jobs. I had one where someone died, and they didn't notice for 6 weeks. But the smell alerted the neighbours eventually. When they took away the body, they left all the jelly that comes out of us, and it went through the carpet and into the floor. I got rid of the carpet, but I didn't know what to do with the floor. And on my van, the best clean ever seen, or it's free. I don't work for nothing. So I sanded the floor, and it shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. And by the time I got it to 0, the floor was so thin you couldn't walk on it. That weren't my fault. I just taped it off, and when Miss Prim and Proper come along again and asked for the money, they were all 2,590 quid, by the way. I got it once, and I needed the money. And I got paid, and I got paid. But, oh, by the way, the floor, they condemned the floor, but I still got paid, because I wasn't an engineer. I didn't know how thin the floor could be before you fell through it. My job was to clean it, and I cleaned it. After 5 jobs, I couldn't do any more. I didn't want to do any more. I felt sick in the morning. I wish it was me that had nearly died. And I thought, I can't go on like this. I just don't want to do it anymore. And instead, as my wife began to recover a bit, I took her with me, and we went out in Milton Keynes, halfway between Northampton and Oxford, where we still had to keep going. We done cleaning for estate agents. See where I'm coming from, estate agents? And they give me job number 1 to go and clean, and they said some of the jobs are dirty. And I said, after what I've been through, everything you've got can be sparkly clean, trust me. But by the time I got to job 30, they gave me a ticket for job 30, they paid me for job 1. And I was always poor, always skint. I was working and working and working, invoicing, normal wages now, £500 a week, that kind of thing, for 6-day week. And it was both of us working. We had some people working with us, not self-employed, cash in hand, part-time people just helping us. And then I got a contract for a hospital that I can never remember the name. Can you remember the name?
Yeah, I've got it. Stoke Mandeville.
Stoke Mandeville Hospital. I can never remember that name, weird. And it was a big £8,000 contract, which I did on my own, working there morning, noon and night. I was under one of these clauses, if it wasn't done on time, they'd fine me. I didn't fancy that, so I finished the job, and just in time they had some dignitary open it up. It was a nurse's home being refurbed. £8,000 I earned in that period, and I never got it. And it brought me to my knees. And it really did hurt me. I thought I'd earned money, I never got it. I started off poor and ended up totally and absolutely skint, owing money to everyone. I can't even open the door. When the door went knocking, knock, 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 I hid behind the sofa. I don't know if anyone's been there. It isn't a nice place to be. I owed money all around. People owed me money, I never had any money. So I had, at that point, I'm ashamed to admit it, a pity party all on my own, where I just drunk a lot of gin. No tonic, just gin. And I did it till I didn't know who I was. I just lost the whole day. My wife thought I was revolting. I was. Hey ho. And when I sort of sobered up, I thought, what shall I do? What can I do? I'm absolutely beyond skint. What can I possibly do? I've got 1 O level, and that was for truancy. So I thought, well, I'm a cleaner, I'd best stay a cleaner, but people are going to pay me up front, in advance, or do it themselves, because I couldn't have cared less. My mother-in-law gave me some money, I had some leaflets done, and she was the photographer's model. And she was ironing, vacuuming and ironing, took photographs, put it on a leaflet. I got them out there, and to my astonishment, I had some phone calls. I made 4 appointments. I saw them all on the same day because I couldn't afford to go there and back, there and back, there and back, and there and back. and every single one bought. I had a business. I then got some cleaners to do the work. I was paid in advance. 13 weeks later, they paid me again because it's on a residual income. I couldn't even spell residual. I didn't even know what it meant. But I got paid again. I knew what that meant. When the year ended, I'd cleared my debts. After 3 years, so 2 years later on, I was earning £110,000 a year in my bank account. I was running around like a blue-arsed fly, and my wife said to me, because she was better then, she had a defibrillator fitted, by the way, that's what sorted it all out. She said, why don't you do franchising? I said, that's great, what's a franchise? So she told me, we got a franchise consultant in, we then franchised the business, and we turned up on BBC Two's Working Lunch programme that year. It's the fastest growing franchise in the country. We're now in Australia and Norway with 211 franchisees in house cleaning. How difficult is that? It's just amazing. So there I was on the crest of a wave, everything going well, and I thought I was Billy Big What's names, and very, very pleased with myself, had a nice car, had a nice house, paying everything. And then my father-in-law had a heart attack and went into a nursing home. In the same year, my mother-in-law got, I think it was diverticulitis, something like that. Anyway, it meant she had also to go into the nursing home, and then the council become involved and come round to our house. They had, my father-in-law was in the police and had a pension. He was a Royal Protection Officer and had a 20 grand a year pension. They owned a house worth 220,000 and they had 20,000 in the bank. So I thought, easy, they'd be all right. But it was £1,500 per week each. Now, I don't know about you, but that means just over a year and they'd be skint. The council forced me to sell the, I say me, it's my wife, but the council forced my wife to sell the house so that they could get the money in for when it run out. It hadn't run out, but they said when it runs out, we'd have to pay. Now I thought I was well off on £110,000. We would have been broke again had we have been asked to pay. So we looked around for cheaper alternatives and there weren't any. They were just really horrible. Anyone here know what I'm talking about here? You put your older people into a nursing home and they're vile, I'm trying to be polite, and the ensuite was a commode in the centre of the room. Not for us, so we decided we'd go down that route. The house, £220,000, we got one of these We Buy Fast companies who offered us £120,000. That's how you make money in property. No. We sold it normally, it went for 180, but it sold, it went in, but we still knew we'd have to get money, and it worried me, how am I going to earn this extra money? So I went to try out online gambling. Nope. Become a millionaire overnight on Amazon. Not for me. All sorts of things you have to try, and they didn't work for me. I then tried property. I went on to this course, and that course, and learnt about it. I learnt about it incorrectly, did things wrong. Murder cost me a lot of money. I've got properties, I've got 14 in 1 year. But one person sued me and won. So I lost money again. That's when I met up with Peter Hogan, who knows his stuff, showed me how to put matters right. I couldn't go back on what I'd done wrong. I just didn't keep on doing it wrong. And then I eventually got things right. And I too become a property millionaire 2 years after meeting Peter, and now have a residual income equal to my money from Time For You franchise. The point of all this is I had to learn the hard way to do things, and I don't want anyone else to learn the hard way to do stuff. We've now made this property mentoring journey easier for people. Excuse me a second. That was the first advert we ran. I died not once but twice after a massive cardiac arrest, survived, was totally broken redundant. I made it my wife's story because everyone has to have a story. Well, my story because it's really my wife's story. And that's the one we use. Can anyone see what that says? It's nowhere. Same word, different mindset. It's to do with mindset. If you've got the right mindset, you can become a millionaire. If you've got the right mindset, you can become a multi-millionaire. You need the right mindset. That's why we're here today. That's my company name in case you need a cleaner. And again, that's our franchisees at our annual meeting, all happy. I had a vision board. Oh, never mind. I saw it. Peter showed me exactly how to get it. I got it. And that's my last house, my extra house in Spain, €1 million house, and my car outside it. It's being built. I'm going in a few months' time when it's all complete.
Are you taking visitors with you?
If they're good looking and female. But why would you want to franchise with us? Well, there's the answers. I've had to learn the hard way. Peter's learnt the hard way. We have a proven residual income model. We offer ongoing support with a huge income potential. But you will never, ever be successful at anything if you don't attract success into your life. And Peter will talk to you later on today how to become a money magnet. And if you want to attract money to you, because that's the reason you're all here, yeah? Yeah? Yes. Thank you. The reason you're here, the reason we're here, is one, we make money by sharing it with people, but it's also nice, now I'm making money, to be able to share it with people. It's not all about take. You saw the house, you saw the car, that's all very nice, but I love showing people how to do things and that they also can make money. And Peter likes that too. So Peter's up later on, don't rush off. We've got a really, really good deal for you, and we'll catch you later on. And thank you very much indeed, everyone. Thank you.